This is CNN Student News. 10 minutes of current events for middle and high school classrooms, no commercials. From the CNN Center, I'm Carl Azus. We're taking you to Afghanistan. Thousands of U.S. troops are serving in the Middle Eastern country as part of the U.S.-led war that began there in 2001. The U.S. government had planned to reduce the number of those troops at the end of this year, but it announced over the weekend that some U.S. forces wouldn't be coming home as soon as originally planned.
This will mean a delayed withdrawal of up to 1,000 U.S. troops, so that up to 10,800 troops, rather than 9,800, could remain in Afghanistan through the end of this year and for the first few months next year.
There's been a recent increase of attacks in the Afghan capital of Kabul. The Taliban are responsible. They're Afghanistan's former rulers who support al-Qaeda terrorists. But the U.S. says that's not the reason why American troops are staying. Afghanistan's previous government didn't want U.S. troops to stay after this year. It wouldn't sign an agreement to allow that. But the country's new government has signed the security agreement. By the end of next year, U.S. troop numbers in Afghanistan are scheduled to be about half of what they are now. The Pentagon says Afghan forces are currently leading about 99% of the missions they go on. The typhoon we told you about last week dragged across the Philippines yesterday. Hagupit means lash in Filipino, and that's exactly what it did to the Pacific Island nation. Hagupit did lose some power before making landfall. It came ashore at the strength of a Category 2 hurricane with wind speeds around 100 miles per hour. But the system moved slowly, and because of that, Hagupit's rain threatened severe flooding and landslides. At least 3 deaths have been blamed on this storm. More than 900,000 people were affected, most of them evacuating their homes. Still, it wasn't as devastating as the typhoon that hit last year. Haiyan killed 6,000 people and left hundreds of thousands homeless. Each day's transcript page at cnnstudentnews.com is the only place we look for roll call requests, like the one that came in this weekend from Pinckneyville, Illinois. Hello to the Panthers of Pinckneyville Community High School. In East Greenwich, Rhode Island, the Ocean State, we've got the Jaguars on the roll from Our Lady of Mercy School. And in Owine, Iowa, say hi to the Huskies. They're watching from Owine Middle. We've covered stories involving the DEA, the FDA, the TSA. Today we're taking you inside the NCCIC. Lots of letters. It's the National Cybersecurity and Communications Integration Center. It's part of the Department of Homeland Security. Its job, keep hackers out of the infrastructure we depend on every single day. And its abilities are tested every single day.
This is really the heart of our cybersecurity efforts here.
So much of what you do is classified. How vulnerable is the United States to some sort of massive critical infrastructure event?
We operate on the assumption that that kind of an event could happen at any time. We're seeing a constant stream of folks trying to breach our networks, our systems across the country, all the time, all day, 7 days a week. There is the potential there for adversaries to get into those control systems, those systems that really run machinery, whether it's gates on dams or parts of the electric grid across our sectors that could have physical consequences. Electricity and water and transportation, our financial services sector, most of those are actually owned by the private sector. They're not owned by the government. And the private sector has a responsibility, and we do everything we can to assist them.
Do you think that the private sector is at the level it needs to be at, given the number of cyber attacks you see every single day?
No, it's not. But it's getting better every day. Here we've got an amber, which tells us that there's some activity potentially with regard to the National Aeronautics and Space Administration.
Some people have described this as significant as knowing about the hijackers pre-9/11. Is that the risk, the vulnerability that we're at right now?
What we worried about in 9/11 was a failure to connect the dots. What we are trying to do here in the NCIC is to connect as many of these dots as we can. We are fighting this fight day in and day out on a collaborative basis with every intention to prevent that kind of catastrophic outcome.
It was delayed a day, but NASA's latest space capsule, named Orion, did get off the ground. It launched Friday from Kennedy Space Center in Florida. Orion flew around the Earth 2 times in 4.5 hours, and it splashed down in the Pacific Ocean off the coast of northern Mexico, the mission a success. Orion's designed to carry as many as 6 astronauts, but there was no one aboard on the $370 million test flight. It was done to make sure the craft could get into space and back down to Earth before anyone actually travels on it. NASA's administrator called the flight Day 1 of the Mars era. It's hoped Orion will ultimately carry humans to the Red Planet and maybe an asteroid. But some lawmakers and scientists have criticized that idea for being too expensive and risky.
Time for the shout out. Saccharin, sucralose, and aspartame are all types of what? If you think you know it, shout it out. Are they gasoline additives, food preservatives, chemical salts, or artificial sweeteners? You've got 3 seconds. Go! They're all artificial and they're all sweet, hundreds of times sweeter than sugar. That's your answer and that's your shout out.
So while they are not natural, artificial sweeteners are chemical compounds, they are sweet. They can be used in everything from gum to yogurt, cupcakes to diet sodas. And they have no calories in many cases, unlike actual sugar, which has about 16 calories in a teaspoon. But does that mean the artificial stuff is healthier and that it'll help you lose weight? Not necessarily.
Let's talk about diet sodas. You see them everywhere, from people who look like they might be trying to lose weight to people who clearly just love the drinks. But are they actually living up to their diet name? What is exactly in diet soda? What does it do to our bodies? Does it actually help us lose weight? There are 5 different kinds of FDA-approved artificial sweeteners, and when you pick up a diet soda, the sweetener you're most likely to guzzle down is aspartame, which is composed of 2 amino acids, aspartic acid and phenylalanine. Got it? Now, one of the more popular rumors about the sweeteners in diet soda is that it can cause cancer. And while there have been a few studies that link different sweeteners to cancer in rats, scientists don't think there's the same risk in humans. But this doesn't mean that these fake sugars don't do some funky stuff to our bodies. Sweeteners such as aspartame actually trigger our body's taste receptors and trick them into believing it's sugar. So, according to researchers at Purdue University, artificial sweeteners in diet sodas fulfill your body's sensory cravings for sweets. And, as advertised, they don't deliver the calories. But this is the problem. Diet sodas are actually crying wolf to your body. When this happens, your body becomes confused about how to respond when it's expecting sugar and doesn't get it. This has real physiological effects, and your body doesn't release the hormone that regulates blood pressure and blood sugar. Also, these sweeteners weaken the reward center of the brain, which could actually lead to increased appetite and overindulgence on real sweets. So the study found that artificial sweeteners can actually lead to weight gains. Wait, that's not what I signed up for. Now, it's worth noting that the American Beverage Association has disputed the reports, calling it an opinion piece. In the meantime, it's probably best to enjoy your favorite soda, diet or not, in moderation.
On the list of animals you probably didn't know could swim, there's this owl. The great horned owl is doing the butterfly stroke across Lake Michigan. 2 peregrine falcons reportedly swooped down on the owl's tree and forced it into the water. So it just swam for a while until someone helped it out with a metal detector. After a rest from the swim and a break from the falcons, the owl eventually made its way back to the trees. Don't know if it had done that before or if it just kind of winged it. Swimming's definitely not for the birds. Like it or not, it got away. Every time the falcons attacked, they'd miss again. Maybe the owl's technique could use some Phelps, but it's got the escape all locked up, and though we've got to duck out today, I'll see you tomorrow on CNN Student News.